All right. So next what we're going to do is switch to SolidWorks and then start creating drawings in SolidWorks. So I'll give you a few instructions on what you would need to do in SolidWorks to get everything set up properly. And then I'll explain what is it that we are actually doing. So the easiest way to do it is you basically start with new drawing and then you choose a paper size. So in our case, because you probably don't have access to a very large sheet of paper, most of your drawings are going to be in letter size or A4. So letter size is unfortunately even more common. So in this case, you can choose the letter size in your drawing over here. And then once we do that, we're going to basically switch to the third angle view. So in order to do that, we'll basically click on the properties and then click on the third angle view and get there. And then what we do next is we're going to basically save this as a template so that we can reuse all of our drawing. So again, so we can call this any name we want, and then we can actually add more features, and we can basically change some file attributes and so on, which we'll basically look at shortly. But I'll kind of like quickly switch to my SolidWorks and then show you what is it that I'm going to do, and then we'll kind of like discuss all of this in just a little bit. So here we go. So this is my SolidWorks screen. So what I'm basically going to do is I'm going to create a new sketch over here. So I'm going to go File, New, and then I'm going to create. So I basically have, typically you would be in novice mode. So where you'd see this option, and then you can click on the drawing, and then it's going to open up a new drawing here. So this is the option to select the sheet of paper. So I'm going to select ANSI A, which is going to be the standard letter size paper that you have. So and then ANSI portrait is the same thing, kind of in the portrait direction. So for our case, either one would be okay. So you can kind of like rotate the sheet of paper. For now, we can leave that. And then if you scroll down, you notice that there are more options over here. So A4 is more standard outside of North America, so which is kind of the quote unquote the normal standard. And then going from A4 to A3, A3 is kind of like putting two A4 sheets together. A2 is kind of like putting two A3 sheets together and so on. In actuality, you actually start with the A0 sheet and then kind of like start cutting it, and then finally you end up with an A4. So the actual size is slightly different. Right now, for some reason, it's in meters. So you notice that the width is 0.21, and then this is 0.29 meters. Then if we go to ANSI A, you notice that it's a little bit different, but the size is very close between ANSI A and A4, but they aren't exactly the same size. So you need to be a little bit careful when you're trying to print this. So once you do that, we're going to click OK. So for now, it kind of pops up a location over here where it's asking you to change all of these features. So for now, I'm going to close this, and I'm just going to check and then kind of like highlight all of the features that we have here. So let's maybe zoom in to the sheets that I'm going to do. So I'm going to basically click on this, and then I'm going to go right click and then properties. And here it gives you the scale, and then I'm going to check that I'm selected the third angle over here. So there is an option for first angle. Make sure you select the third angle option, and all of these can be left as is, and then we can say apply changes and then close it. So then if you look at the sheet over here, so this is my big sheet. So you notice that this is when it's printed, you actually have letters and numbers. So this is similar to the grid axis. So if you ever looked at the map, you notice that horizontal and vertical lines running through the map. Basically, those are latitude and longitude. But nonetheless, you can take two latitudes and two longitudes, and then you can create a square box. And then you can basically say, for instance, Vancouver is between this latitude and this longitude, and then between this, between these two latitudes and between these two longitudes, and then you kind of create a small box within which your object is located. Similarly, you can basically say, I have an object A2, which I can basically say that's going to be in this block over here, or if I say it's B2, that's going to be located in this block. So this letters is very useful when you're trying to add notes to your drawing. So the other thing you notice is there is the template over here. So this is known as the essentially like the label or the drawing label for the object. It's actually called sheet annotation. So you can actually go here and then change the sheet format. So basically, if you right click and then say edit sheet format, it actually gives you the option for changing all of these properties. So if you look at this, it says this title actually comes from PRP sheet and then description. So what that means is this is actually set by some internal variable within SolidWorks. And then here, so if you move your mouse over, it says PRP colon SolidWorks file. And then if you do further, it has PRP and then few other parameters. So all of these get automatically selected or set by the SolidWorks based on the file setup and so on. So this in particular is set up by the file name. So that's SW-file name stands for SolidWorks file name. So if I close this and then save this file as some particular name, so if I call this MSE is awesome. And then a little bit big, so that gets populated in this region over here. So again, so these again get copied from whatever object is being copied over here, and so those get set automatically. So you can actually add more things to it. Go properties, excuse me. So edit sheet properties, format, and then here it says drawn by. So here this is basically being set by property drawn by, and then this gets set by property drawn date, and then checked format and so on. So this begs the question as to how exactly it set all of these properties, and the way you do that is basically go to file and then click on the properties, and then it opens up, and then the summary, so you can add your author keywords and other things that are related to the file. So it gives me my name here, but for the other properties I can actually go and add them here. So we kind of click on this one of these empty slots. So we wanted to create properties not drawn by, right? So we kind of like scroll down, and I think maybe I went past it. So basically, we're going to be looking for drawn by. There we go. So we do drawn by. So it turns out my name is fairly long, so I can maybe put it as KVIJAY, and it's going to be evaluated and so on. And then you can potentially link it to other properties. So right now I'm going to leave it as is. So the other property maybe I want to set is drawn date. So I kind of go down, drawn date. This is going to be a date. So kind of put in any date you want. So maybe 20, and then 1, some random date. So again, you can decide on the format that you would use based on what's recommended in your company or whatever you're working. So once you do that, so notice that it's actually highlighted over here. So this gets filled in. So if I actually kind of like exit this sheet properties, editing properties, and then I go back here. So this actually gets filled in automatically over here. So that's the advantage of using these property variables over here. So once you have done this, so in case you notice that there's something useful, you can actually go and then say do file, and then if you do file save as, and then you can call this as a new drawing template. So it kind of like shows all of the other templates. So these are some I've actually created which will be useful for me. So I created one, it's called drawing millimeters, where I chain the unit to millimeters and set everything properly. But you can kind of like go ahead and then call it any template you want, which might be useful if you're going to basically be using the same format again and again. So the drawing template is also useful if you wanted to change some of these properties. You can maybe add a note saying all dimensions are in millimeters. In this case it says in inches, so you maybe want to correct this. You can once again right click and edit sheet format, and then just kind of go scroll in double click, and then just say millimeters. And then you can fill in all of these tolerances if you want. And then we just say okay. And then we exit sketch. So now all of it is in millimeters. You can also change the units over here, and everything is going to show up as millimeters over here. So this is where this part is going to be useful, and then you can save it as a template. And then if you go, if you try to create another drawing, and then instead of the novice, if you click on the advanced, it's going to give you the option of selecting different templates. So I selected or created one which is called drawing millimeters, and then if I did that, again it's giving me the option of selecting sheets of paper. Maybe you'll do this, and I can basically notice that this is already set in millimeters. So this is how you can kind of like get started with the drawing itself. So if you remember, we talked about switching into third angle view. So that basically begs the question, what is going to be third angle view, and why is that actually useful, and where is it that I might actually use it? So that's what we're going to be focusing on next, where we basically kind of look at this drawing over here and go to the next page. So it basically asks the question, what's the third angle view? And so imagine I have this part over here. This is the object, which kind of is maybe a little bit complicated. And then I'm looking at the view. So where I put the top view on the top, the right view on the right. This is known as a third angle view, where we're kind of like projecting, or we're kind of like looking at the glass box and then creating the drawing in the front. So if you create the drawing in third angle, so you typically use this projection symbol over here, which is basically, so this starting view, and you basically say how the object is actually placed. So the third angle view is commonly used in North America and mostly in the US, and we kind of get that from them. The other type of angle view that's used is known as the first angle projection. So let's look at some of the features of the third angle first. So this is what we've been using so far. This is the ANSI or the US standard, and here the right side is located on the right, and then the top view is located on the top. So fairly straightforward. Again, so I have the space at the bottom of the sheet for you to fill these up. So then what's first angle view? So in the first angle view, so notice that it's as if you're projecting everything down to the opposite face. So essentially you're shining a light, and then there's a shadow that gets cast, and then we are kind of creating the drawing based on the shadow. So in that case, what's going to happen is that this is actually the ISO or the international standard. So here, the right side view actually shows up on the left. So if this is the front view, so this would be the right side view of the object that gets shown on the left, and the top view goes on the bottom. So this is how this is set. I know this is a little bit kind of like seems to be flipped around on its edge, but this is again like a standard that's actually used, and this is the ISO standard, and this is the way I actually learned it before. But then since we're using third angle view here, the discussion is actually in third angle that we've been doing so far. So we can actually change a lot of the other options. So this is kind of again what we'll be doing, and then make sure that you actually switch the SolidWorks here. So again, so we can change more of the options, and then we can actually change the ANSI and other things in SolidWorks. So I'm going to just show that in just a little bit. So let's very quickly go back to SolidWorks and then see how these views look different. So I'm just going to roll back my drawing, and so that I have this view that I can basically create 3D drawing out of. So this is the object that we are basically going to really quickly create in SolidWorks. So let's quickly create the part in SolidWorks and then see how it actually looks. So just a quick note, the isometric view and the parts aren't actually the same. So I'm going to go by the actual 3 drawings that I actually have. So let's do a new part and then select OK. So it looks like the top, I can just create the top view with just like minimum features. Maybe let's do that. So I'm going to create this on the top view. And let's start. Then I'm going to create part as closely as I can to the part that I have. And then top view seem to have a line here. So let's maybe dimension this and then see if we can get it very close to what we had here. So maybe make this 80. This, we make this 80 as well. So it looks like this is halfway point. So we'll make this 40. And this maybe 20. And this was kind of like halfway here, right? So we're going to basically exit sketch. Then what we do is we kind of like extrude this up for some of the parts and then extrude it down for the rest of it. So then let's see. So we click on the sketch, features, extrude, like how high. We select this contour, and then it looked, again, this looks like the same as 80. Then we select OK, and then select maybe this contour over here. Select this contour now, and then maybe make it half as high, which is body. And then we say OK, and then this is very close to the part, or hopefully it's the same part that we have in the drawing. So we can quickly check. Again, you kind of like go so make this like so, and then click the other views, and then this looks very close. This is the top view, and then all of this seems to match. So this is the view that we have, so we can basically save this. So once we have this, I'm going to create a new drawing. So Control N. So I have the millimeter drawing that I created. I'm going to select that. So maybe we do the ANSI portrait, the ANSI drawing, ANSI landscape. So now notice that it is actually asking me to select one of the drawings, which is going to be the model view. So in this case, I'm going to select this and then click on next. And then now it's allowing me to create the multi-view of the object. So I can either create one view at a time. So right now it's selected the top view. So if I click and then I can click on any one of these views, and I can also select multiple views at once. So I can click select multiple views, and now I can select the front, top, and the right view. Because you're trying to spot the difference, it might be worthwhile to create all of the 4 views, and maybe actually the 5th view, maybe not. Click on it again and gets rid of the view. So we have this, and then we're going to select OK, and then it gets populated. So looks like we are running short of space, right? So what I can actually do is move views, and then I can actually move the bottom view. So you notice that by default it hasn't actually shown some of the hidden features, so this just looks blank. So what I can actually do is click on the view again and then change, say hidden lines visible, and then say OK. This one I can do the same thing, or I can click on use parent style, and maybe might be worthwhile to just select all of these views. And you can look at this. So we can basically make everything to be Like if you wanted to change all of this, you could. And just make everything have hidden lines visible. So we have done this. So right now, because we are in third angle view or third angle projection, so maybe move it a little bit closer. So you notice that the view that shows up here is the right side view. The view that shows up here is the top view, and the view here is the bottom view over here. So we can switch screens and just double check. So just kind of like maybe scooch it around. So then this is the top view, and notice that this top view is here. So now if I right click and go to properties and then change from third angle, which is what I have here, and then if I go to first angle and say apply change, so notice that the views actually switch locations, right? So the what was here, the top view has gone to the bottom, and then what was here has gone here, and they basically just switch places. So this is what is kind of the difference between the first and the third angle. And then once again, one of it is actually used very widely in ISO standard, which is widely used in Europe. And then the other standard is the North American standard. Again, so it depends on what drawing that you're basically using. You would basically use one or the other. So this basically concludes our introduction to drawing, where we were basically looking at how to actually open the drawing and then maybe create our own template. And then we looked at the difference between the first and the third angle projection. And we want to basically make sure when you're creating the drawing that it's actually set to be third angle projection. So you can actually click on the little gear that's actually available. So switching back, so you can click on this gear that's available and then fiddle around with the options that are there. So the first option is going to be the general option. So as long as this stops spinning, you'll see that. So this gives you the system level option, and then this is the document level option. So right now we are in ANSI standard. You can go to ISO or GB, which is the Great Britain. So you can kind of look at the standard. And if you're basically working for an industry which is maybe located in a different continent, you might need to select all of these values appropriately. Again, so if you're using a slightly different software, all of these options would be available, just that they'll be located in a different location. So this basically concludes our discussion here, and I'd like to thank you for attending the video, and then I'll hope to see you again in the next lecture. Thank you.